Chapter 883. After putting on her shoes, Lin Jiai didn't dare to stay any longer. She quickly dashed out of the door, rushed to the elevator, and pressed the button desperately. The elevator door opened, and Lin Jiai rushed in as if she was running for her life. There was someone inside. With her head lowered, she suppressed her emotions that were on the verge of breaking down and pushed herself up the stairs one floor at a time. After arriving at the underground parking lot, Lin Jiai got into her car and closed the door. All of a sudden, she shed all of her disguise and forced herself to hang on the steering wheel as she wept like a child who couldn't find her home. Have you ever loved someone wholeheartedly before? Lin Jiai had. She was born into a good family, and she was doted on ever since she was born. Even though she was her elder sister, her younger brother, who was 3 years younger than her, was more like an elder brother, giving in to her all the time. Yet, for the sake of a man, she wrecked the kitchen just to learn how to cook and nurture his stomach. Yet, for the sake of a man, she stayed up late to watch a soccer match that she wasn't interested in at all. Yet, for the sake of a man, she willingly abandoned her luxury car and rode on a bicycle. Those were the best and happiest moments of her life. But ultimately, those moments were too short. He had left, a departure that could never come back. Everyone said that parting should be done with dignity, but all these years, she had been longing to see him again. She knew that this was a wish that would never come true. She understood how extravagant a dream it was to say that they hadn't met for a long time. Lin Jiai cried her heart out, as if she had dried up all the tears that she had been holding back for a long time. It took a long time before she finally stopped. Her entire body slumped against the steering wheel, and after a long while, she finally raised her head and took out a photo from her bag. It was a photo of a boy and a girl in their school uniform. The girl in the photo was her. A blissful smile could be seen on her face, and the boy beside her was looking at her dotingly. Lin Jiai stared at the photo for a very long time before she raised her head to look at the rearview mirror. She smiled every day, but her smile would never be as beautiful as the one in the photo. I can't go back. I can't go back to those good times that made me wish that I could lead a befuddled life anymore. Qin Ting, this is the 6th year since you left. Do you know that? In the past 6 years, I didn't dare to think about you. Do you know? Over the past 6 years, whenever the day of your departure arrives, I feel like I'm no longer the invincible Lin Jiai. As soon as Lin Jiai arrived at the company, he had a busy day ahead of him. When he didn't come to the company, the people in the company all looked for him, but when he really came to the company, the people in the company couldn't wait for him to disappear. The meeting started at 9:00 in the morning. When he stepped into the company, he held one meeting after another without stopping. Even lunch was eaten in the conference room. By 2:30 p.m., not only had Lin Jiai managed to clear all the work that had piled up recently, he even brought forward the meeting scheduled for the next day. Returning to his office, he took a look at the time on his wrist and noted that there was still an hour before Shi Yao's class ended. He glanced at his secretary who had followed him in and asked, "Is there anything else that you haven't finished?" The secretary handed him a document. "This is the only document that requires your signature." Chapter 884. After saying those words, Lin Jiai stood up, grabbed his phone and car keys, and walked to the side to grab his coat. Ignoring his secretary who was still in his office, he left the office and headed to G University to pick up his girlfriend. Shi Yao's class ended at 3:30 p.m., and before 3:15 p.m., Lin Jiai was already waiting for her at the entrance of the classroom. At 3:30 p.m., Shi Yao's class ended punctually. She quickly packed up her textbooks and shoved them over to He Tiantian, who was sitting beside her, before hurriedly saying, "Tianta, help me take them back to the dormitory room." "Thanks." Then, before He Tiantian, Jiang Yu, and Lung Wan could ask her what she was doing in such a hurry, Shi Yao leaped out of the classroom window and left through the back of the building under their dumbfounded gazes. Quite a few people would glance at Lin Jiai, who was standing at the entrance of the classroom. As if they didn't exist, Lin Jiai patiently waited at the entrance of the classroom. When He Tiantian, Jiang Yu, and Lung Wan came out, but Shi Yao was nowhere to be seen. A slight frown appeared on his forehead. "Where's Yao Yao? Isn't she in class?" "Jiang Yu, she's in." Before Lin Jiai could ask Shi Yao where she was, Tian had already pointed to the classroom window behind her and said, Yao Yao just leaped out of the window, Lin Jie. Without saying a word, Lin Jie strode out of the building and headed to the back of the building to wait for her. Along the way, Lin Jie once again realized that it wasn't a good thing to have a girlfriend with a high IQ. The reason he didn't dare to call her was because he was afraid that she would avoid him. But after searching for a long time at the back of the building, he still couldn't find Yao. In the end, he could only take out his phone and give Yao a call. The phone rang a few times before it was finally picked up. Yao Yao, where are you? Me? Yao replied with a question. Then, as if recalling something, she suddenly realized something and said, I saw that it's still early, so I didn't want to disturb you. I'm on my way to your place right now. Didn't we miss the family gathering a few days ago? I was afraid that Grandpa Lin would be unhappy, so I made an appointment with him to accompany him for dinner tonight. Lin Jie. It's not that having a girlfriend with a high IQ isn't a good thing. It's that having a girlfriend with a high IQ isn't a good thing. She had predicted that he would come over and avoided him. Now, she had even found Grandpa to protect her. Even if he saw her and wanted to carry her away, he wouldn't dare to do it in front of Grandpa. Lin Jie? Yao waited for a moment, but Lin Jie didn't reply. Oh, I got it. See you at the old house later. After hanging up the call, Lin Jie felt stifled for a moment before he walked out of the academy and drove to the Lin family mansion. When he arrived, Yao was currently accompanying Grandpa Lin in the study, looking at an ancient painting. He had no idea what Yao was saying, but Grandpa Lin seemed to be beaming with joy. Seeing him, Auntie's son called out to Grandpa Lin in the study, Grandpa, the young master is here. Oh, old Master Lin responded, then continued to call out Yao Yao with a smile, starting their conversation. Lin Jie, who was used to being ignored, calmly sat on the sofa and watched the television. Even though he said that he was watching television, his attention wasn't on it at all. His gaze kept drifting toward the door of the study. After some time, the doorbell suddenly rang. Chapter 885. Lin Jie, who was the closest to the entrance, tossed the remote control aside before Auntie's son could open the door. Through the surveillance camera on the wall, he saw who it was, and his complexion immediately turned awful. Auntie's son was in the midst of preparing dinner in the kitchen when she heard the doorbell ring. She immediately ran over and asked, Young master, who is it? Lin Jie snapped out of his daze, and before Auntie's son could approach to take a look at the surveillance camera, he replied impassively, It's the delivery man. You should go back to your work. I'll go get it. Auntie's son was perplexed as to why Lin Jie would suddenly care about such trifling matters, but she still nodded and replied with an all right before heading back to the kitchen. Lin Jie changed out of his shoes, pushed open the door, and leisurely made his way out. Even though he was still quite a distance away, when the two men outside saw him clearly, they immediately called out to him fawningly, Jie. Lin Jie didn't say a word, and there wasn't much of a change in his expression. As he walked up to the door, the two men outside began calling out to him even more warmly and frequently. He unlocked the door nonchalantly, and one of them subconsciously pushed the door open, intending to enter. However, Lin Jie beat him to it and walked out, closing the door behind him. The two men were taken aback by Lin Jie's actions. A moment later, one of them finally spoke up. His voice was far less fawning than before, and there was a hint of caution in it. Jie. Hearing those words, Lin Jie casually pointed to a small garden in the neighborhood and said, If there's anything, let's talk over there. The two men were taken aback for a moment before they nodded subserviently and replied, All right, all right. Without saying a word, Lin Jie began walking in the direction that the other man had pointed out earlier. But barely after he took 2 steps, a SF Express really drove over and stopped right in front of his house. It can't be, right? He made up a story that he was a delivery man, but there really was a delivery man here? Thinking that it was a coincidence, Lin Jie asked, A delivery from Courtyard 1? That's right, Lin Jie from Courtyard 1. The delivery man replied as he got out of the car. His delivery? He never left the address of the old house, so how could there be a delivery for him? Lin Jie frowned in bewilderment. He stretched out his hand and said, I'm Lin Jie. Give it to me. The courier passed a pin and a parcel over to Lin Jiej. After signing his name, Lin Jiej returned the pin to the courier, after which he took the package and examined it carefully, only to see that his address was written on it. As for the sender's information, other than the word Beijing, there was nothing else. This delivery sure is mysterious. Lin Jiej continued walking toward the small park as he unwrapped the package. The package was wrapped in a paper envelope, so it didn't take Lin Jiej long to dig through the contents inside. It was a small, white electronic device. Lin Jiej tossed the paper bag into a nearby trash can as he picked up the electronic device to study it. From the looks of it, it should be a recording pin. Interesting, Lin Jiej was getting more and more curious about the contents of the recording pin, but he didn't have a chance to listen to it. The two men who had followed him to the small park spoke up one after another. Jiej. Chapter 886. Meeting Lin Jiej's gaze, the two of them spoke up once more. Jiej, Uncle Sure, Auntie Sure, it's nice to meet you. Lin Jiej greeted them politely. But after that, he went straight to the main topic. Uncle Sure, Auntie Sure, may I know the reason why you're here today? Perhaps it was due to Lin Jiej being too distant. The two of them fell silent for a moment before Father Sure spoke up. Actually, it's nothing much. It's just that we haven't seen old Master Lin for a very long time. So we came to the city today to see if he's doing well. Thank you for your concern, Uncle Sure, Auntie Sure. Grandfather is doing very well. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. Father and Mother Sure didn't expect Lin Jiej to be so merciless, and they looked at one another uneasily. Eventually, Mother Sure smiled apologetically and asked, Jiej, is Yao Yao in the old residence at the moment? Lin Jiej lowered his eyelids and replied without hiding anything, yes. A second later, he raised his eyelids again, and his tone turned resolute, but I won't let you see her. Jiej, what do you mean by that? Why won't you let us see Yao Yao? Mother Sure immediately chimed in. That's right. Yao Yao is our daughter. It's not like we would harm her. Besides, it's only right for us to see our daughter. Daughter? Lin Jiej looked as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, and his lips curled up into a cold sneer. Could it be that the two of you have some kind of misunderstanding regarding the word daughter? What kind of misunderstanding can there be? Yao Yao is a piece of flesh that fell from my body, so she's my daughter. That's right. We brought Yao Yao up painstakingly. Without us, she wouldn't be here. That's right. In terms of bloodline, she's your daughter. As those words left Lin Jiej's lips, his eyes suddenly turned sharp and menacing. But in terms of emotions, she isn't one to you. Have you ever loved this daughter of yours? Back at the hospital, I was the one who brought her home in the middle of the night. She stayed outside for so long. Did any of you think about it? Since that day, it has been so many days, Yao Yao hasn't come back home. Did you guys look for her? It's getting cold. Did any of you bring her clothes? Now, didn't you come to find her because you found out that I'm with her? You think that this daughter of yours is valuable again, so you quickly came to continue playing the role of a loving father and mother, right? You keep saying that you came to see Grandpa. If Yao Yao wasn't at the old house today, would you have come? Lin Jiej's tone wasn't too heavy, and there wasn't much emotion mixed into it. However, there was a certain kind of person who was born with an imposing aura. He didn't need to do anything at all to suppress the other party to the point where they couldn't even lift their heads. Lin Jiej's words rendered Father and Mother Sure speechless for a very long time. Chapter 887. If he hadn't coincidentally stumbled upon them, Auntie's son would have opened the door and respectfully invited them in. If that were to happen, Softbun would surely be heartbroken to see them like that, right? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej's gaze turned colder, and even his tone grew harsher. Since we've bumped into each other today, I'll make it clear to you. Yao Yao, even if you don't love her, I do. Even if you don't feel pain, I do. Even if you don't dote on her, I do. Even if you can't give her a beautiful family, I do. I don't have many requests for you, but if I have to say anything, I only have one request. If you can't give her happiness, I hope that you won't make her sad. You're Yao Yao's biological parents, so I won't do anything to you today on account of our blood relationship. However, I'll make it clear first. I might not be capable of anything else, but my greatest strength is my narrow-mindedness. From now on, if I see any of you making Yao Yao unhappy, don't blame me for not showing mercy." After saying those words, Lin Jie shot a glance at the pale Mr. and Mrs. Shi and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll be heading back first." After saying those words, Lin Jie stood on the spot for a moment. Thinking that he still hoped for Shi Yao to have a beautiful family, he added, "If you really treat Yao Yao as your daughter, you'd better think about how you should treat her." After which, he turned around and left. Not too long after the doorbell rang, Shi Yao walked out of the study. To be honest, she was still a little fearful of how she had treated Lin Jie earlier in a moment of panic. She had personally experienced his fighting prowess, and she knew that he must have been suppressing his anger. If she were to be caught by him, she might not even be able to leave the house for 3 days and 3 nights. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao's heart shuddered. She turned her head around to look for Lin Jie. "Him? Where is he?" Shi Yao looked at the stairs and hesitated for a moment, not daring to go up. If he was really in the bedroom, wouldn't she be unable to come out if she went in? "Miss Shi, would you like some fruits?" Just as Shi Yao was hesitating, Auntie Sun walked out of the kitchen with a plate of fruits in her hands. Without any hesitation, Shi Yao rushed over to the fruit platter, and as she picked up a fork to eat, she turned to Auntie Sun and asked, "Is Lin Jie upstairs?" "No, young master went to collect the package." After replying to Shi Yao's question, Auntie Sun craned her neck to take a look outside the courtyard. "Speaking of which, it's really weird. Why don't I see him at the entrance?" "So, he's not upstairs." Shi Yao calmed down and stuffed 2 more mouthfuls of fruit into her mouth before boldly heading out to look for Lin Jie. But before she could reach the entrance, she saw Lin Jie's silhouette darting to the left through the fence in the courtyard. Out of curiosity, Shi Yao hastened her footsteps. To the left was a small park. It couldn't be that Lin Jie was in a bad mood because of her, so he decided to hide in the small park alone. Shi Yao didn't think too much into it. She began walking toward the small park, but before she could pass through the lush greenery, she suddenly heard a familiar voice coming from the small park. Chapter 888. Shi Yao's footsteps came to a halt. Every single word of the conversation between Lin Jie and his parents was clearly heard by her. It turned out that Lin Jie wasn't here to pick up the package. He happened to bump into her parents, and he didn't want her to be sad, so he stopped them for her. Her parents' words still left a deep chill in her heart, but Lin Jie's thoughtfulness also brought warmth to her heart. Lin Jie's mouth was truly vicious. Every single word he spoke was sharp and incisive. She couldn't see her parents' expressions clearly due to the greenery, but she could sense their awkwardness and helplessness. She thought that her parents would fall silent because of this, but who could have thought that they would actually start apologizing to Lin Jie? They had already disappointed her greatly, but at this very moment, she was still disappointed once more. Back when she had argued with them, they had never admitted to their mistakes. They had always treated her as if it was only right for them to do so. Yet, at this very moment, they actually admitted that they were wrong to Lin Jie so easily. Just as Shi Yao was feeling a little sad, Lin Jie spoke up once more. "Since we've bumped into each other today, I'll make it clear to you. Yao Yao, even if you don't love her, I do. Even if you don't feel pain, I do. Even if you don't dote on her, I do. Even if you can't give her a beautiful family, I do." Shi Yao's eyes reddened. She didn't listen to what they were saying anymore, as if they had never appeared at all. She took a few steps back before turning around to return to the Lin family's old residence. Instead of returning to the house, she headed to the backyard and picked up a pair of scissors to pluck a huge bouquet of flowers. Not too long later, she saw Lin Jie returning to the courtyard and entering the house. Not too long later, the door to the house was pushed open forcefully, and Lin Jie rushed out. Shi Yao knew that he must have asked Auntie Sun about her whereabouts after he returned. Fearing that she would overhear the conversation between him and her parents, he hurriedly rushed out to look for her. Only then did Shi Yao put down the scissors and hugged the bouquet of flowers, pretending as if she had just finished plucking them. After taking 2 steps, she pretended to see Lin Jie and called out, "Lin Jie?" Lin Jie turned around and saw a young lady carrying a huge bouquet of fresh flowers in her arms as she skipped toward him from the back garden. actually didn't go to the door to look for me, but went to the back garden. Shi Yao passed the bouquet of flowers to Lin Jiej and said, "Here, it's for you." Lin Jiej stared at Shi Yao's face for a moment, and after making sure that everything was normal, clean and warm, he finally reached out to take the flowers. However, he still couldn't help but feel a little worried. He continued staring at Shi Yao for a while longer before asking, "Did you go to pluck flowers earlier?" "That's right. I heard from Annie's son that you want to pick up your package, so I wanted to come out to look for you. However, I happened to see the flowers blooming in the backyard, so I ran over to pick a bunch." Shi Yao knew that Lin Jiej didn't want her to know about his parents' visit, so she had to pretend that she didn't know about it. Not only so, she had to do everything in her power to cover up the matter so that Lin Jiej would believe that she didn't know about it. Chapter 889. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao shot Lin Jiej a radiant smile that was as dazzling as the bouquet of flowers in his embrace. "I picked these flowers for you personally. Do you like them?" After confirming that Shi Yao hadn't seen him chatting with her parents, Lin Jiej's heart calmed down. He lowered his head to look at the flowers in his embrace before replying, "I like them. As long as they're from you, I like them." Huh. Lin Jiej can even say words of love like that? Shi Yao blinked her eyes as she stared at the flowers in Lin Jiej's embrace. Then, she stared at Lin Jiej's handsome face for a moment before reaching out to touch his face mischievously. She said, "But, Lin Jiej, do you know that I'm not the only one in the world? Compared to these flowers, I prefer this flower of yours." Lin Jiej. Was he being teased by her once more? If I were to write a book titled "Girlfriend Always Wants to be the Main Character," what would happen? It would surely become a hit. Lin Jiej's voice was so soft that Shi Yao couldn't hear him clearly. She raised her head and asked, "What?" "It's nothing. I'm just saying that you're mischievous." Mischievous? The skin of a mantis shrimp? Lin Jiej. Is there any word that you can't associate with food? Lin Jiej. No, it's Pippi Yao's skin. Shi Yao. Compared to Pippi Yao, I still prefer mantis shrimp. After dinner at the Lin family old residence, Lin Jiej and Shi Yao didn't stay for long before leaving. This was because they had already booked a gathering at the Golden Resplendence many days ago. To be more precise, it was a gathering organized by Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou to celebrate Shi Yao and Lin Jiej's ending singlehood. The people invited to the gathering were all familiar faces, Lin Jiej's roommates and Shi Yao's roommates. However, Song Chaoshi didn't come because she was accompanying her wife on a trip to Chongqing. When Shi Yao heard the news, she was a little disappointed. Of the 4 roommates in Lin Jiej's room, Song Chaoshi was the only one she hadn't met. She felt that Song Chaoshi was someone who lived in the sexy and frisky group. Other than that, there were also Liang Juxi, Lin Jiai, and Huang Nian. Shi Yao was the one who invited the Year of Desolation. This was because she remembered the discussion she had with Lin Jiej back then, and it was to facilitate He Tian Tian and the Year of Desolation. Thus, when they were deciding on the name list, Shi Yao had specially mentioned the Year of Desolation, and Lin Jiej was more than happy to have the Year of Desolation fall in love with someone else. Shi Yao and Xia Shangzhou were the first to arrive. When they arrived, only Lin Jiai and Xia Shangzhou, who were having dinner with a client nearby, had arrived. Roughly 10 minutes later, He Tian Tian, Jiang Yue, Lung Wan, and the others arrived, followed by Lu Binlai, Desolate Year, and finally Liang Juxi. Due to his work habits, Xia Shangzhou had gotten used to serving Lin Jiai. Even though this was just a private gathering, he still acted as Lin Jiai's lackey, surrounding her like a lackey. When she finished her wine, he would immediately refill it. When she wanted to sing, he would immediately pick a song for her. When she wanted to eat nuts, he would immediately peel them. His attitude was even more lianing than when he took care of Empress Dowager Cixi. As for Lu Binlai, he naturally circled around Lung Wan. Even though Lung Wan paid him no heed, he still found it enjoyable. Chapter 890. Can I call you Desolate Year? I play Honor of Kings. What do you play? Even though Desolate Year was known for his vulgar words in the game, he was still a rather shy person in real life. After being stared at by He Tiantian's question, he felt a little embarrassed and replied, I play PlayerUnknown's Battleground. The furthest distance in the world is me in the King's Canyon, and you are on the island map. He Tian took a sip of wine with a sorrowful look on her face. After which, she turned to look at Desolate Year and said with a bright smile, "But it's fine. I'm willing to help you conquer the entire island." Shi Yao was initially worried that He Tian and Desolate Year wouldn't have anything to talk about, but after seeing this sight, she quietly retreated to Lin Jie's side to worry about Jiangyu. After all, out of the 4 girls in her dorm, 3 of them had someone accompanying them. Only Jiangyu was pitiful, but while she was paying attention to He Tian, Jiangyu and Liang Jusi had already started chatting with one another. Liang Jusi said, "Eh? Your phone screensaver is an anime?" Jiangyu said, "Yeah, I'm a 2D fan. You too?" Liang Jusi nodded vehemently as if he had finally found a connection. "That's right. Who do you like?" "I like a lot of them. One Piece, Crayon Shin-chan, Detective Conan." Jiangyu recited a bunch of anime before asking Liang Jusi, "What about you? What do you like?" Liang Jusi scratched his head. "Oh, don't be like that, uncle. The senior next door is always flirting with me. She even pounced on my Adonis in my dreams. These are all erotic comics." Shi Yao subconsciously shot a glance at Lin Jie. Noticing Shi Yao's gaze, Lin Jie immediately grabbed a pillow and threw it at Liang Jusi. In the end, before the pillow could be thrown out, Jiangyu spoke first. "Bro, you're actually still at the age of looking at porn. You're really pitiful. Let me tell you, I've already paid attention to real people, such as Miss Song and Little Zay." Liang Jusi, "I'm also paying attention to these real people, bro, but I get annoyed after watching them for too long. By the way, bro, who do you think is better, Miss Song or Little Zay?" Jiangyu thought for a while. "Bro, I think they each have their own merits." Shi Yao widened her eyes in shock. "You can actually chat like this?" Lin Jie silently put down his pillow. Softbun's roommate sure is fearsome. Amidst this bizarre scene, an hour passed before Shi Yao finally received a message from Lung Wan. "It's done." After reading through Lung Wan's message, Shi Yao didn't respond to it. Instead, she put away her phone and hurriedly finished the coconut milk sago in front of her. After which, she told Lin Jie, "I'm going to the washroom," before standing up. Seeing her getting up, Lung Wan stood up as well, and the 2 of them left the suite together. Not too long after Shi Yao and Lung Wan left, Lu Binlai walked up to Lin Jie and asked, "Boss, are you going to the washroom?" Lin Jie didn't want to go, but recalling that Shi Yao had gone to the washroom, he nodded and walked out of the suite with Lu Binlai. After Lu Binlai entered the bathroom, Lin Jie stood in the corridor, waiting for Shi Yao. Out of boredom, he reached out for his phone, hoping to kill some time. However, his fingertips brushed against something hard. It was only then that he remembered that he hadn't listened to the voice recorder he had received at his doorstep earlier in the evening. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie brought the recording pin to his eyes and examined it for a moment before pressing on the switch. Chapter 891. There was a short burst of noise from the recording pin. About 10 seconds later, an aggrieved voice came from the recording pin. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry." Lin Jie felt that the voice sounded a little familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere before, but he just couldn't recall where. "I know that you must be blaming me right now, and I also blame myself. It was a moment of muddle-headedness that caused me to make so many mistakes. After I was sent back to my hometown by my uncle, I did blame you, but I realized that behind my blaming you, I was also reminiscing about our past." Hearing those words, Lin Jie finally realized whose voice it was. Liang Jusi's cousin. Could she be the one who had sent this recording pin to him? But according to Liang Jusi, she had been forcefully sent to a third-rate university overseas yesterday, and there wasn't even anyone to pay for her living expenses anymore. So, did she send this recording pin to him before she left? The voice on the recording pin continued, "Yao, can I still call you Yao Yao? Are you unwilling to forgive me even if I apologize? I know that it's hard for you to believe me after all the mistakes I've made, but Yao Yao, do you know? I was blinded by greed, and I really know that I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have treated you like that." So, Liang Jusi's cousin was talking to Softbun? But why wasn't Softbun speaking at all? Just as Lin Jie was making up his mind, Shi Yao's voice sounded from the recording pin. I can't go back anymore. What do you mean? Yao Yao, the meaning of your words. Are you still not willing to forgive me? It's fine. I'm willing to wait. You can wait if you want to. It has nothing to do with me anyway. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Hearing Shi Yao's words, Liang Juxi's cousin's soft voice suddenly turned furious. Shi Yao, you keep saying that you don't like Lin Jiege, but what's the truth of the matter? You're eating with Lin Jiege, and you're even staying in his house. You even told me that you wanted to annul your engagement with Lin Jiege, but what about now? Have you annulled your engagement? Don't think that I don't know that the Lin clan is already preparing for your marriage to Lin Jiege. You've always been lying to me. You said that I've never been true to you, but what about you? Aren't you the same for me? We're each other. A slight frown formed on Lin Jiege's forehead. Why do cousin Liang Juxi's words sound so familiar? He seemed to have heard of it somewhere before. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao's voice sounded from the recording pin. Whether you believe it or not, I've never lied to you before. I was serious when I told you that I wanted to cancel my engagement with Lin Jiege, and it's also true that I don't like Lin Jiege. I have a life that I want to lead, and I have someone that I want to love. Lin Jiege subconsciously tightened his grip around the recording pin. It was no wonder why those words sounded so familiar to him. Back when he brought Soft Bun to Chengdu, Soft Bun had bumped into Liang Juxi's cousin at the Beijing airport. He had overheard their conversation, and he had heard those words before. Chapter 892. If he wasn't mistaken, when Liang Juxi's cousin and Soft Bun bumped into each other at the airport, she had even made a recording of her apology. Liang Juxi's cousin must have intentionally left such a trump card up her sleeves. She's waiting for me to suffer a crushing defeat, so as to use this video to drive a wedge between me and Soft Bun, so that I won't get off scot-free either, right? But even though he knew Liang Juxi's cousin's motive, he still couldn't help but feel the discomfort in his heart. Who was the person that Soft Bun wanted to fall in love with back then? Was she still thinking about that person now that she was with him? She was with him. In the dead of the night, in the middle of the night, when she was thinking of him, would she still think of that person? Lin Jiege knew that he shouldn't be having such thoughts, but he couldn't control himself at all. It was because he liked her that he cared about her, and it was because he liked her so much that he even wanted to be a part of her past. Humans were always like this. When they didn't have what they wanted, they were already satisfied with what they had. But once they had it, they would want more. He had to admit that even though Liang Juxi's cousin had a lot of dirty tricks up her sleeves, this move of hers before she left had indeed struck a nerve. That was because everyone was sensitive and narrow-minded when it came to happiness. Boss, what are you daydreaming about? Lu Benlai, who had come out of the bathroom, saw Lin Jiege leaning against the wall with his head slightly lowered, and he couldn't help but call out to him several times. Recovering from his daze, Lin Jiege replied with an "oh" before staring blankly out of the window once more. Boss, what's that in your hand? Boss? Lu Benlai stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Lin Jiege. Lin Jiege hesitated for a moment before turning to look at Lu Benlai. Meeting Lin Jiege's gaze, Lu Benlai repeated his words once more. Boss, what's that in your hand? As if he hadn't heard Lu Benlai's words, Lin Jiege replied absent-mindedly, A long while later, he finally replied with an "oh" before stuffing the recording pin into his pocket and staring blankly out of the window once more. Noticing that something was amiss, Lu Benlai stared at Lin Jiege for a moment before asking, Boss, did something happen? Lin Jiege shook his head silently. Boss, Lu Benlai was just about to speak up when Lin Jiege's phone suddenly rang. Lu Benlai shut his mouth and stared at Lin Jiege for a moment. Seeing that the latter wasn't picking up the call, he spoke up once more. Boss? A moment later, Lin Jiege turned to Lu Benlai and asked, What's wrong? Lu Benlai pointed to his pocket and said, Your phone is ringing. It was only then that Lin Jiege finally came to his senses. He reached out to grab his phone. He fumbled for his phone several times before he finally pulled it out. He stared at the screen for a moment before he stopped himself from answering the call. Lu Benlai's sharp eyes noticed that the caller ID on Lin Jiege's phone was 21, and he couldn't help but ask curiously, Who's 21? Lin Jiej ignored him. Lu Binlai pondered for a moment, but he didn't think that it was likely that Lin Jiej would leave a note for another female student. So he guessed, "Little Junior?" Noticing Lin Jiej's drooping eyelids, he knew that he had guessed correctly. Thus, he continued, "Boss, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and answer the phone." Chapter 893. The phone in his hand vibrated for a very long time, and just as it was about to quiet down, Lin Jiej tapped on the screen and answered the call. Even though he was feeling a little down, his voice was still very gentle when he spoke to Shi Yao. "Yao Yao?" Lu Binlai, who was standing by the side, had no idea what Little Junior was saying on the other end of the call. A slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead as he asked, "Now?" After which, Lin Jiej replied with "All right," before hanging up. "Boss, did Little Junior say anything to you?" Lu Binlai asked curiously. Lin Jiej glanced at him and said, "She wants me to head to the backyard now." "Backyard? Why are you going to the backyard?" Lu Binlai continued asking, but Lin Jiej ignored him. Lin Jiej began walking away, and Lu Binlai quickly followed behind him. Of course, his mouth wasn't idle either. That's weird. Didn't Little Junior and Wan go to the washroom? Why would they head to the backyard in the blink of an eye? Boss, did you go the wrong way? This isn't the way to the backyard. It's the way back to the suite. Before Lu Binlai could finish his words, Lin Jiej walked out of the suite with a thick coat in his hand. So, he's bringing a coat for Little Junior. Lu Binlai quickly shut his mouth. After leaving the main entrance of the Golden Resplendence, the two of them circled around the brightly lit building before finally arriving at the backyard. The red plum blossoms in the courtyard had already bloomed, and Lin Jiej and Lu Binlai walked along the cobblestone path for quite a distance. At this point, Lu Binlai couldn't help but ask, "We're already at the backyard. Why haven't we seen Little Junior and Wan?" Before he could finish his words, Lin Jiej suddenly stopped. Seeing that Lin Jiej had come to a halt, Lu Binlai also came to a halt. He swallowed the words that he was about to say, and just as he was about to ask Lin Jiej what's wrong, he followed Lin Jiej's line of sight and saw that there was a piano at the center of the plum grove. Seated right in front of the piano was the Little Junior that they were looking for. She was initially dressed in a simple sweater and jeans, but at some point in time, she had changed into a white sweater paired with a new dress. In front of her and behind her were red plum blossoms, red and white intertwined. Under the bright light, she looked like a fairy who had accidentally entered the human world. Putting aside the infatuated Lin Jiej, even Lu Binlai, whose heart belonged to someone else, had to admit that the current Shi Yao was breathtakingly beautiful. Lu Binlai noticed that Lin Jiej wasn't responding at all, so he turned to look at Lin Jiej. Just as he was about to remind him, Shi Yao suddenly spoke up. There was a microphone in front of her. Even though there was a distance between them, her voice could be heard clearly. "I've listened to many songs, walked many roads, read many books, and met many people, but what I want the most is to spend time with you." As soon as Shi Yao said those words, a smooth and moving melody flowed from her fingertips on the piano. It was a very quiet and slow piece of music. When it fell into people's ears, it gave people a very peaceful feeling. It took an entire minute before Shi Yao's voice finally sounded. "I want to spend time with you," like lowering my head to look at the fish, or leaving the teacup on the table, wasting their beautiful shadows. P.S. The original lyrics came from the poem, "I Want to Spend Time with You." Someone adapted it into a song, and it's quite nice. Chapter 894. I still want to waste even the setting sun, such as taking a stroll, until the stars fill the sky. I still want to waste when the wind blows, sitting in the corridor in a daze, until the dark clouds in your eyes are all blown out of the window. I've already wasted the world, but tomorrow, I still want to waste it. It was the same quiet and slow melody again. Shi Yao's fingers danced across the piano keys. A winter breeze blew, bringing with it a bone-chilling chill, causing the red plum blossoms on the tree to fall. Separated by the falling flower petals, Shi Yao raised her head and met Lin Jiej's eyes. The melody didn't stop, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. A gentle voice drifted across the night sky, bringing warmth and comfort to the night. "I want to waste time with you," to waste the short silence, the long meaningless, to waste the delicate yet aged universe together, such as leaning on the railing, gazing at the mirror in the water. I've already wasted the world, but tomorrow, I still want to waste it, to waste it, to waste time with you. The 10 minutes of music and singing didn't leave one feeling bored at all. Instead, when it came to an end, it left one with a lingering sense of nostalgia. After Shi Yao finished playing the final tune, she sat quietly in front of the piano, staring at Lin Jiej through the drifting petals of the plum blossoms. After a while, she reached out to pull the chair she was sitting on and stood up. A gust of wind blew, causing her dress to flutter in the wind. She stared straight into Lin Jiej's eyes as she slowly walked toward him. In truth, she hadn't planned to do all of this. If not for the fact that she had accidentally bumped into him and her parents at the entrance of the Lin family mansion earlier that evening, she would have never thought of doing all of this. In their story, he had always been the one who took the initiative, and the one who took the initiative more and more. On the other hand, she hadn't properly expressed her feelings to him yet, so she had come up with this surprise with Lung Wan at the last minute to let him know that he liked her, and she liked him too. Shi Yao stopped roughly a meter away from Lin Jiej. Lu Binlai, who had been standing by Lin Jiej's side, had already been dragged away by He Tiantian, who had also rushed over to watch the show. By the time Shi Yao stood up, Lin Jiej was still staring at her, seemingly still in a daze. He was much taller than her, so she tilted her head upward and smiled at him. Lin Jiej, I've tasted Huangshan's hibiscus cake, Beijing's roast duck, Yunnan's cross bridge rice noodles, Hangzhou's Zilong bao, Chengdu's translucent beef jerky slices, Guillen's landscape rice noodles, and Qingyang Lake's hairy crabs. But all of the delicacies in the world can't compare to spending time with you. Lin Jiej, I want to have with you. Lin Jiej, spicy rice, Monday, spicy noodles, Tuesday, spicy noodles, as, Wednesday, spicy as Thursday as sweet and sour as day, sweet Thursday with as sweet, Thursday to salt. Salt as chicken Thursday as sweet as Thursday sweet as sweet and sweet Thursday. As sweet as sour salad Friday as bitter Friday bitter as on Lin as day as. I want to savor the deliciousness of food with you. I want to walk home hand in hand with you. For the rest of my life, I want to spend every minute and every second of every day with you. I only want to spend them with you. So, Lin Jiej, as Shi Yao spoke, she raised her clenched right fist toward Lin Jiej and stared fixedly into his eyes. Slowly, she opened her palm and asked, "Are you willing to?" Chapter 895. As Shi Yao spoke those words, Lin Jiej saw a ring lying in her fair and dainty palm. The design of the ring was exquisite, and the diamond was extremely small. However, under the refraction of the surrounding lights, the diamond shone brightly. It was so bright that it stung Lin Jiej's eyes, and he couldn't help but feel a tinge of warmth in the depths of his eyes. It wasn't that he wasn't curious about what she was up to when she called him to the backyard, and he had thought of many possibilities, but he never thought that Soft Bun would actually propose to him. This was something that a guy should do, yet she did it. Although it was the other way around, he realized that he was very touched, so touched that he was in a complete mess. A woman should only put down her reservations and propose to a man if she truly liked him and cared about him, right? Just like that night when Han Jing slandered her, she took the initiative to ask him to be with her. She took the initiative to give him the most precious first night and the longest life of a woman. Lin Jiej felt as if there was something stuck in his throat, and it felt exceptionally uncomfortable. How if *up? A man like him actually felt like crying at this very moment? Seeing that Lin Jiej was staring at the ring in her palm, Shi Yao blinked at him before speaking up once more. Lin Jiej, why are you in a daze? Why aren't you putting the ring on my finger yet? Don't you want to marry me? Then, let's change the method. If you don't want to marry me, you can marry me instead. If you aren't saying anything, I'll take it as a silent agreement. After saying those words, Shi Yao grabbed Lin Jiej's hand, held his fingertip, and took the ring from her palm before slipping it onto her own finger. After which, she raised her finger to Lin Jiej's face and waved it around as if she was showing off. Lin Jiej, let me tell you this. You're mine for the rest of your life, so you won't be able to escape even if you want to. Lin Jiej, look, isn't my proposal ring beautiful? Isn't it especially beautiful? Before Shi Yao could finish her words, Lin Jiej suddenly raised his hand, grabbed her shoulder, and pulled her into his embrace. Then, he hugged her tightly. He knew that he should say something to her, but his brain was like paste, and he couldn't think of a single word. In the end, he could only hug her. He hugged her tightly, hugging her even harder. He hugged her so hard that he felt as if he wanted to embed her into his bones and blood. Shi Yao felt a little pain from his embrace, and she couldn't help but frown as she muttered softly, "It hurts." Before she could finish, he said, "Don't talk." Instinctively, she shut her mouth. He loosened his grip on her a little, but it still hurt a little. She held it in for a while and couldn't take it anymore. Just as she was about to speak again, she felt something wet on her neck before the words reached her throat. It was as if someone had sealed Shi Yao's acupoints, causing her to freeze on the spot. After a while, she finally realized that the wetness was from his tears. She suddenly felt a little helpless. She only wanted to give him a surprise and let him know her feelings, but she never thought that things would turn out like this. She panicked for a moment before she felt a lump in her throat and her eyes reddened. With an aggrieved voice, she said, "Lin Jiej, I." Chapter 896. Flustered, she uttered "tube is," but before she could say a third word, Lin Jiej suddenly spoke up, "I love you." Due to the huge fluctuation in his emotions, his voice was a little hoarse, but there was a deep texture to it. The words that came out of his mouth were simple and easy to understand, but it made Shi Yao feel as if someone had sealed her acupoints once more. She fell into a daze in Lin Jiej's embrace, unable to move at all. A gust of wind blew, and the rustling of the tree branches sounded. Another bunch of flower petals fell to the ground. Shi Yao's mind was completely blank. It took her a long time before her mind finally started working again. "I love you," he said, "I love you." Her already stinging nose felt even more sour, and hot tears flowed uncontrollably from the corners of her eyes. No matter how many words she could say, it was impossible for her to describe her feelings. She could only use her body language to respond to him. She raised her hands and wrapped them tightly around his waist, returning his embrace. This was a joyous occasion. Lovers finally found a way to be together, and she was filled with boundless joy. In fact, the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. However, the tears at the corners of her eyes only grew more intense. It didn't take long for her tears to drench the front of his shirt. It was clearly him, a man, who wanted to cry because of her. Why was she crying like a tearful person now? Lin Jiej couldn't help but chuckle softly. Hearing his laughter, Shi Yao couldn't help but laugh along. After laughing, Shi Yao asked, "What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?" "I'm happy. I'm very happy too." Another gust of wind blew, and a whole flower fell on the piano keys, making a very light melody. Piano, red plums, and the two of them. That was the best time they had ever spent together in that winter. Before Lin Jiej and Shi Yao could finish hugging each other, the surrounding spectators had already begun to leave. The first to leave was Lin Jiai. She looked at Lin Jiej and Shi Yao, and a phrase came to her mind, "A match made in heaven." Then, she recalled that someone had said the same thing about her and Qinting 6 years ago. It was a summer day, and she and Qinting were eating shrimp noodles by the roadside. When an old shrimp noodle vendor was serving them a bowl of shrimp noodles, she asked, "Miss, is that your boyfriend? The two of you look like a perfect match, like a match made in heaven." After Lin Jiai left, Xia Shangzhou didn't dare to stay any longer. Hugging her coat tightly, he chased after her and said, "Boss Lin, it's cold outside. Do you want to put on your coat?" Then, Desolate Year left because the scene in front of him was too cruel. It reminded him of his little cutie. Then, he decided to go back to the private room and drown his sorrows in alcohol. Roughly 10 seconds after Desolate Year left, He Tian noticed his presence. She immediately turned around and jogged over to him. "Desolate Year, you promised me that you'd add me on WeChat. Can we scan the QR code now?" Year of Desolation took out his phone, searched for the WeChat QR code, and passed it over to He Tiantian. He Tiantian happily scanned the QR code. While adding Zhang Xian as a friend, she said, I really hope that you have a QR code installed on your heart too. That way, I'll be able to enter your heart just by scanning it. As soon as He Tiantian said those words, Desolate Time, who had just added her as a friend, suddenly felt a little regretful that his hands were moving too quickly. This big sister is a little scary. Chapter 897. Lung Wan was just about to move when Lu Binlai suddenly spoke up. Lung Wan, where are you going? Ignoring him, Lung Wan continued walking toward the golden resplendence. Lu Binlai didn't mind that he was being ignored again and again. He quickly caught up to Lung Wan and asked, Aren't you envious of little Junior's love? Lung Wan continued to ignore him, but the lowered corners of her eyes revealed her envy and desolation. Lu Binlai didn't notice Luo Ruoxin's reaction at all. Seeing that she was ignoring him, he continued asking shamelessly, Let me ask you another question then. Do you want to be together with little Junior? Lung Wan continued to ignore him. It had been some time since Lu Binlai had confessed to Lung Wan. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the two of them, but after staring at Lung Wan for a while longer, he finally spoke up once more. Lung Wan, I'm sincere. To tell you the truth, I've liked you since spring, and it's already winter now. Can't you seriously consider me? Lung Wan's footsteps didn't stop, and her expression didn't change at all. Her lips didn't show any signs of opening, but the fingertips hidden in her pocket were trembling slightly. Lung Wan, what do I have to do for you to consider me? As long as you say it, as long as it's within my means, I'll do it for you even if it costs my life. Lung Wan continued walking forward silently, but Lu Binlai suddenly halted his footsteps. Staring at Lung Wan's back, he continued, Forget it. I won't force you if you don't want to respond to me. For every day that you don't like me, I'll continue pursuing you. For every year that you don't like me, I'll continue pursuing you. In any case, day after day, we'll just continue wasting time like this. There's still a long way to go. Lung Wan suddenly halted her footsteps. I don't like to drag others down with me. If you really want to put an end to this, I'll do it for you. She stood with her back facing Lu Binlai for a while before slowly turning around. However, her gaze wasn't directed at Lu Binlai but the sky. She stared at the night sky for a long while before continuing. It'll be Christmas in 20 days. If there's a heavy snowfall in Beijing this Christmas, I'll consider you. If not, please don't talk about your feelings in front of me in the future. As she spoke, Lung Wan turned to Lu Binlai and asked, Can I? Lu Binlai raised his head to look at the sky before turning his gaze back to Lung Wan. Without any hesitation, he nodded and said, Sure. Lung Wan didn't expect Lu Binlai to agree to it so readily. She was stunned for a moment before turning around and walking into the grand hall. Lu Binlai stood on the spot, watching as her silhouette disappeared from his sight. Then, he raised his head to look at the sky. In the end, only Liang Jusi and Jiang Yu remained in the backyard. The two of them stared at the hugging Lin Jiej and Shi Yao for a moment before they began muttering amongst themselves in boredom. Jiang Yu, bro, I still can't accept this kind of artistic and fresh style. I prefer the kind where you strip naked and do it. Liang Jusi, we're allies. Anyway, I can't understand those emotional words of love. I feel that the beginning of a person is their true nature. Jiang Yu, that's right. I don't agree with that at all. What I want is a harem of 3,000 male pets. Chapter 898. Right after they said those words, Lin Jiej suddenly let go of Shi Yao and lowered his head to kiss her. Jiang Yu's face immediately reddened. She raised her hands to cover her eyes and howled, I'm still a baby. Liang Jusi abruptly turned his head around to face the kissing duo behind him. The heck? I'm still a child. You're letting me see this. Lu Binlai had known Lin Jiej for 4 years now, and he thought that he understood Lin Jiej quite well. However, he still couldn't understand why a person who seemed so preoccupied before heading to the backyard would suddenly turn into a completely different person the moment he returned from the backyard, slaughtering everyone around him as though they were nothing but dogs. Initially, Lin Jie was still very gentle. After holding Shi Yao's hand and returning to the suite, he turned to look at Shi Yao and asked, "Do you want to sing? What song do you want to sing?" After Shi Yao replied to him, he immediately walked over to the karaoke platform and cut off Lu Binlai's engrossed performance of "If You Love Me, Follow Me." It just so happened that the climax of the song had been cut off, and Lu Binlai glared at Lin Jie in displeasure. "Boss, what right do you have to cut off my song?" Lin Jie leisurely walked up to him and snatched the microphone away from his hand. As he passed it back to Shi Yao, he turned to Lu Binlai and said, "Because Yao Yao proposed to me," following which, after singing a song for a while, He Tian suggested that they play a game. The rules of the game were simple. Everyone would count, and if the number was a multiple of 7, they would have to drink 3 glasses of wine. The men would have to drink wine, but the women would have to drink beer. Lin Jie was the first one to suggest drinking liquor, but when Shi Yao said, "Let's just drink beer," he immediately gestured for the waiter at the entrance to bring the beer over. Liang Jusi grumbled in displeasure. "Henpecked?" Lin Jie's sharp ears caught Liang Jusi's words, and he replied righteously, "I'm not henpecked. I'm the one who was proposed to by Yao Yao." After playing around until 11 in the evening, everyone started to get hungry. When it was time to order supper, Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou got into an argument with a female student over whether they should add spicy sauce to the barbecue. Lin Jie, who was in charge of ordering, ignored Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou's opinion and ordered all of them spicy. Lu Binlai, Xia Shangzhou howled in dissatisfaction. Not only did Lin Jie not feel the slightest bit of sympathy for them, he even looked at the two of them with a righteous look on his face. "I'm the one who was proposed to by Yao Yao, so I have the final say." Lu Binlai, Xia Shangzhou. Did ordering takeout have anything to do with him being proposed to? What the hell did it have to do with him? What left Lu Binlai even more astonished was that Lin Jie didn't eat much after the supper was served. Instead, he sat by Shi Yao's side, fiddling with the diamond ring Shi Yao had bought for him. On the way, a waiter was called over to deliver drinks. The attendant shot a few glances at Lin Jie, and Lin Jie noticed it. He raised the diamond ring and asked, "Do you think that this ring looks good?" The waitress, who simply thought that Lin Jie was too good-looking, could only nod and say, "Yes." Lin Jie's lips curled up in satisfaction as he stared at the ring on his finger with an unconcealable pride in his eyes. "Thank you." Lin Jie paused for a moment before adding, "Yao Yao gave this to me when she proposed to me." Unable to watch on any longer, Lin Jie bellowed, "ATM, have you had enough?" Chapter 899. Lin Jie tossed aside the potato chips in her hand and clenched her fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. "Can you stop saying that you were proposed to by Yao Yao? I wouldn't dare to." Lin Jie replied calmly. After which, he picked up a roasted chicken wing and placed it in front of Shi Yao's face. "Because I've already been proposed to by Yao Yao." Lin Jie took in a deep breath before taking another deep breath. Then, she turned to Shi Yao and said with an unbelievably gentle voice, "Yao Yao, control him." Receiving Lin Jie's instruction, Shi Yao hurriedly nodded before turning to glare at Lin Jie and bellowing, "Fool! That's the fool you proposed to. That's the fool you proposed to. That's the fool you proposed to." It was only at 1 in the morning that everyone finally dispersed. Zhang Yu and He Tian had too much to drink, and the only one who was sober was Lung Wan. With Lu Binlai's help, she stuffed the two of them into a taxi and returned to Ji University. Before the taxi left, Zhang Yu was still very reluctant to part with Liang Jusi, who was still holding onto a mineral water bottle and calling him his wife. On the other hand, He Tian held onto Lung Wan's hand, calling him Desolate Year and Sweetie. Desolate Year drank a little too much, so Liang Jusi's chauffeur came to pick him up. Lin Jie had Liang Jusi's chauffeur give Desolate Year a ride. As Lin Jie's assistant, Xia Shangzhou had to drive, so he didn't touch a single drop of alcohol. Lin Jie seemed fine when she was in the suite, but when Xia Shangzhou drove the car out of the underground parking lot, he saw Lin Jie standing by the roadside, vomiting furiously into the trash can. Xia Shangzhou hurriedly stepped on the brakes and grabbed a bottle of mineral water from the trunk before rushing over to Lin Jie's side. "Ms. Lin, are you all right?" Lin Jiai raised her head to look at him, but before she could say a word, she began vomiting furiously into the trash can once more. Xia Shangzhou stretched out his hand and patted her on the back. When she finally calmed down, Xia Shangzhou unscrewed the cap of the mineral water bottle and passed it over to Lin Jiai. Lin Jiai took the mineral water bottle and rinsed her mouth before saying, "Thank you." Xia Shangzhou hurriedly took the remaining bottle of water from Lin Jiai's hands before saying, "Boss Lin, why don't you get in the car? I'll take you home." Ignoring him, Lin Jiai turned her head around to look at her surroundings before randomly choosing a direction and walking along the main road. "Boss Lin, Boss Lin." Xia Shangzhou chased after Lin Jiai and tried to pull her back into the car, only to be flung away by Lin Jiai. "I'm going to beat you up." Xia Shangzhou was so shocked that he took half a step back. Ignoring him, Lin Jiai continued walking forward. She was wearing high heels, and her steps were unsteady. Xia Shangzhou turned around to look at Lin Jiai, who wasn't paying attention to the road at all and was walking aimlessly forward. Thus, he switched off the engine of the car and quickly caught up to Lin Jiai. When Lin Jiai ran the red light across the road, Xia Shangzhou grabbed her tightly. It was only when the light turned green that he let go of her. There was a pedestrian walking right in front of them, and just as Lin Jiai was about to collide with him, Xia Shangzhou swiftly pulled her to the side. Just like that, he followed along with her. Gradually, the car parked by the roadside disappeared from sight. Chapter 900. Xia Shangzhou didn't dare to leave Lin Jiai alone here. Seeing that there was an empty taxi by the roadside, he said, "Boss Lin, why don't I flag down a cab to send you home?" Lin Jiai squatted on the floor, not moving at all. Xia Shangzhou called out once more, "Boss Lin." But seeing that there was still no response from her, he mustered his courage and grabbed Lin Jiai's arm, pulling her up from the floor. By the time Lin Jiai straightened her back, Xia Shangzhou realized that her face was already covered in tears. The words that he was going to say to send her home suddenly froze at the tip of his lips. Boss Lin is crying? The fearsome demoness who would kick down doors and shatter chairs at the slightest disagreement, the one who was even more valiant than a man, is actually crying? Xia Shangzhou stared at Lin Jiai for a very long time before he finally managed to speak. "Boss Lin, are you still all right?" As if she hadn't heard his words at all, Lin Jiai continued staring at him for a moment before she finally moved her lips. "What time is it now?" Xia Shangzhou glanced at the time on his wrist and replied, "It's almost 2 in the morning." "I see," Lin Jiai replied as her eyes suddenly turned a little blank. "Has a new day arrived?" "Yes, it's already the 3rd of December. Another year has passed. The 7th year has come. 7 years. 7 years. He still hasn't returned," Lin Jiai muttered softly under her breath. Xia Shangzhou couldn't understand what she was saying. "Boss Lin, what do you mean by 7 years?" "He has left me for 7 years. Who is he?" Xia Shangzhou frowned. He was just about to continue asking Lin Jiai when Lin Jiai suddenly turned to him and asked, "Who are you?" It seemed like Boss Lin was drunk. She didn't even know who he was anymore. Xia Shangzhou moved his lips. "Boss Lin." Before he could say, "I'll send you back," Lin Jiai suddenly came to a realization and exclaimed, "Oh, you're a navigator, Xia Shangzhou." He really despised this name, but he didn't dare to reject it. "Navigator, do you know? I miss him so much. I think about him every day, but I don't dare to think about him every day. Say, are you men also annoying? You clearly said that you would walk together for the rest of your life, but in the end, you left me alone." As Lin Jiai spoke, tears began flowing down her cheeks once more, and she collapsed to the ground once more. She did not speak again, but her shoulders were twitching. Xia Shangzhou knew that Lin Jiai was crying. He had worked by her side for almost half a year. He had seen her send people flying with a kick, and he had also seen her throw documents in the conference room and scold the officials for being stupid. He had also seen her run a 100-meter race in high heels, but he had never seen her like this. So, he was at a loss and didn't know what to do. He just stood there and watched her cry. After some time, she finally calmed down. Her face was still buried in her arms, but she said, "Navigator, do you know my story with him?" Chapter 901. She was already 25 years old, but the him she spoke of was still 19 years old. So, what she meant was that, when the him she spoke of was 19 years old, Xia Shangzhou had already guessed the ending of the story, but he still didn't dare to come to a conclusion. She didn't speak anymore. It was already 3 in the morning, and the traffic on the streets had lessened significantly. Compared to the hustle and bustle of the day, the streets were quiet and empty. After a long period of time, Lin Jiai finally spoke. Her voice was very soft, as if a gust of wind could scatter it, but it made Xia Shangzhou's heart ache for some reason. She said, "When I was 19 years old, he left this world, and he left me as well." Xia Shangzhou was intending to send Lin Jiai back to the Lin family mansion, but after getting on the taxi, Lin Jiai said that she wanted to go to Jingfeng Villa. Xia Shangzhou knew of Jingfeng Villa. It was Lin Jiai's personal residence in Beijing, but she rarely stayed there. In fact, the number of times she had returned in the past half a year could be counted on one hand. While the taxi was on its way to Jingfeng Villa, Lin Jiai fell asleep. When the taxi arrived at Lin Jiai's apartment, Xia Shangzhou called out to Lin Jiai several times, but she didn't wake up. Xia Shangzhou stared at the sleeping Lin Jiai for a long while before he finally paid the fare. Gritting his teeth, he bent down to carry Lin Jiai into the elevator. Initially, he thought that Lin Jiai would be very heavy because the impression she gave off was simply too valiant. But when Xia Shangzhou carried her up, he realized that she was really light. So light that he felt that she weighed no less than his cousin's 15-year-old daughter. When they arrived at Lin Jiai's floor, Xia Shangzhou grabbed her thumb and unlocked the door. Pushing open the door, Xia Shangzhou walked in with Lin Jiai in his arms, and in the next second, he nearly threw the sleeping Lin Jiai to the floor. The entrance was filled with high heels of all kinds of colors, the sofa in the living room was filled with bags of all kinds of brands, and clothes were strewn all over the floor. There were unwashed dishes and confiscated takeout boxes on the dining table that he could see at a glance. This unsightly room. Was it really a woman's room? How could it be in such a mess? Were the she-devil and Boss really siblings? Boss was such a neat freak that he loved cleanliness to the point that he had to clean the dormitory every day. Their socks were never allowed to be left unwashed overnight. But the female demon could turn a mansion worth tens of millions into a pigsty. They were obviously a family, but why was there such a big difference? Calming himself down, Xia Shangzhou carried Lin Jiai and carefully avoided the clothes scattered all over the floor before entering the master bedroom. Her bed was also a mess. He placed Lin Jiai on the sofa and took out a clean set of bedsheets from her changing room. After changing into them, he tossed Lin Jiai onto the bed and covered her with a blanket. He wanted to leave just like that, but after taking a look at the extremely messy room, he walked to the door and finally turned back. Then, starting from the dining room, he started to clean up the place square by square meter. 2 hours later, Xia Shangzhou wiped the sweat off his face and glanced at the clean room before preparing to leave. Chapter 902. She was wearing clothes, but it was winter. Even if there was a heater in the room, she might still catch a cold if she were to sleep like this. Xia Shangzhou hesitated for a moment before he eventually stepped into the bedroom. He bent down, picked up the blanket on the floor, and carefully covered Lin Jiai with it. But just as he was about to get up from the bed, Lin Jiai, who had been sleeping soundly on the bed, suddenly reached out and wrapped her arms around his neck. Without any warning, she brought his upper body right before her. Xia Shangzhou was taken aback by this abrupt turn of events. Then, he saw Lin Jiai opening her eyes. There was an intoxicated look in her beautiful eyes, and he knew that she was drunk. She stared at him, and a breathtakingly beautiful smile suddenly blossomed on her exquisite lips. Then, as if she had seen the person she had yearned for day and night, she spoke in an exceptionally gentle and pleasant voice. "Qin Ting, you're back? Qin Ting? Is that a person's name?" Amidst Xia Shangzhou's confusion, Lin Jiai spoke once more with that same gentle voice of hers. "Qin Ting, what took you so long? I've been waiting for you for a long time." So, his guess was right. This Qin Ting was the lover she spoke of who had passed away? While Xia Shangzhou was deep in thought, he suddenly felt a warm breath brushing against his face. He snapped out of his daze, and in the next moment, he felt a light kiss on his cheek. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. It was faintly discernible, but there was an intense numbness that spread from his face to every vein in his body, reaching straight to the bottom of his heart. This unfamiliar yet stimulating sensation made his body stiffen, following which, he felt Lin Jiai's lips moving closer to his. Just as his lips were about to touch hers, she spoke once more, "Qin Ting." Those two words jolted Xia Shangzhou back to his senses. Without any hesitation, he pulled Lin Jiai's hand away and dashed out of the door as if he was fleeing for his life. Xia Shangzhou even forgot to take the elevator. He climbed from the 30-story building to the first floor, and by the time he stepped out of the building, the chilly wind of the winter morning blew right into his face. He shivered uncontrollably before his mind gradually calmed down. He had left his jacket at Lin Jiai's place, but he didn't dare to return upstairs to retrieve it. Instead, he walked to the entrance of the neighborhood with his teeth chattering, and he stood by the roadside, shivering from the cold. It took him a while before he finally flagged down a cab and headed to the Golden Resplendence to retrieve Lin Jiai's car. By the time he returned the car to Lin Jiai's parking lot and hailed a cab back to the academy, it was already 6 in the morning. Xia Shangzhou, who hadn't been able to sleep the entire night, was already lying on his bed. He lay on the 1.2-meter-wide bed, listening to Lu Binlei's heavy breathing, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't fall asleep. It was as if a spell had been cast on his mind. Lin Jiai's lips replayed over and over again, and the feeling when her lips gently landed on his cheek. After everyone had left, Lin Jiej called for a waiter to settle the bill before leaving the Golden Resplendence with Shiyao. Chapter 903. Lin Jiej's car was parked by the roadside. When he reached out for his car keys, his fingertips brushed against the recording pin once more. His body stiffened, and his footsteps abruptly came to a halt. Shiyao, who was holding on to his other hand, also noticed his abnormality, so she stopped as well. "What's wrong?" As she spoke, Shiyao turned to look at Lin Jiej. Seeing that he was staring straight ahead, she followed his line of sight, but other than a few parked cars, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Perplexed, Shiyao frowned as she turned to look at Lin Jiej and asked, "What are you looking at?" Lin Jiej finally snapped out of his daze. When he turned to look at Shiyao, he caught sight of the tiny diamond ring on her finger from the corner of his eye. As if someone had comforted him, his heart immediately softened. He met Shiyao's gaze and shook his head. "It's nothing. Let's go home." He walked to the car, but he didn't open the door. He admitted that he was feeling jealous. He wanted Soft Bun's first awakening of love, and those feelings belonged to him too. But things had already happened, and time couldn't be reversed. No one could change it, and he couldn't keep harboring such thoughts. The past really wasn't that important, was it? At the very least, the current her was truly in love with him. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej quickly composed himself and raised his hand, intending to open the car door. But before his fingers could touch the handlebars, Shiyao, who was standing beside him, suddenly spoke up. "Lin Jiej, why don't you just leave the car here? There's no need for the chauffeur to come all the way here. Let's just take a stroll back. Take a walk?" Lin Jiej frowned. It would take at least 20 minutes to get home by car. If they were to take a walk, how long would that take? Seeing the young man's reaction, Shiyao could vaguely guess what he was thinking. So she spoke up once more. "Let's just walk in the direction of home. If we get tired from walking, we'll just call a cab home. All right?" There was no way he could reject her coquettishness. Without saying a word, he retracted his hand from the car and replied, "All right." At 2:00 in the morning, there weren't that many cars on the streets. The people on the sidewalks were no longer coming and going like they were during the day. Not too long after the two of them started walking in the direction of their home, Shiyao finally let go of Lin Jiej's hand and hooked her arm around his, drawing closer to him. Perhaps it was due to the alcohol she had drunk earlier, but even though she wasn't drunk, her words were much more talkative than usual. "Winter in Beijing has always been cold, but this year, I'm not afraid of the cold. Do you know why?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word, but he turned his head to look at Shiyao. "That's because I have you." After saying those words, Shiyao giggled to herself. The corners of Lin Jiej's lips curled up into a doting smile. Not long after, there was a pedestrian street. Many shops were closed, and only one selling sweet potatoes still had its lights on. Shi Yao had Lin Jiej wait for a moment before running over. After a while, she came back with a paper bag. The paper bag was steaming hot, and it was filled with a huge sweet potato. Shi Yao placed the sweet potato in front of Lin Jiej's face, and Lin Jiej took a symbolic bite before putting it down. Hugging the sweet potato tightly, Shi Yao nibbled on it with relish. Just as she was about to finish it, she suddenly thought of something and spoke up. Chapter 904. Come to think of it, it's been many years since I've eaten roasted sweet potatoes. The last time I had one was back in my first year of high school. It was winter back then, and there was an old man selling roasted sweet potatoes at the entrance of our school every day. When I heard that his wife had fallen ill, he relied on the income from selling sweet potatoes to buy medicine for her. Back then, I felt sorry for him, so he would buy a sweet potato every night for his self-study session. But then, speaking up to this point, Shi Yao suddenly started stuttering. After that, there was a boy from the next class who was wooing me, and for some reason, he noticed this habit of mine. So, he started sending me roasted sweet potatoes 3 times a day, and whenever I rejected it, he would throw it away. You know how much I respect food, so I could only bite the bullet and eat it. But you can't possibly stop yourself from eating several pieces of roasted sweet potatoes every day, right? I told that boy several times to stop sending me roasted sweet potatoes, but he just wouldn't listen. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore, so I thought of an idea. I would return him a gift every time he sent me a roasted sweet potato and tell him that it was a token of my sincerity. After that, within a week, he started hiding from me. Do you know what I returned him a gift? Shi Yao raised her head to look at Lin Jiej, and before he could say anything, she burst into laughter and said, "It's stinky tofu, ha ha ha." Hearing Shi Yao's answer, Lin Jiej couldn't help but burst into laughter. As Shi Yao passed by the trash can, she tossed the bag of roasted sweet potatoes into it. After which, she hooked her arm around Lin Jiej's and continued walking for a while. Now that I think about it, there are many things that happened in high school that were rather hilarious. Lin Jiej, there was a boy who wooed me back then. I stayed at the dormitory in high school, and that boy stuck cotton candy all over a tree under our dormitory. Now that I think about it, it's rather romantic, isn't it? But, do you know, I felt so embarrassed at that time. When I was in my second year of high school, I became addicted to soda. Many boys would send me soda, and I managed to accumulate several hundred bottles that semester. In the end, I traded those bottles for several dozen RMB, and I used them to buy a lot of snacks. My greatest achievement was on Valentine's Day in the first half of my third year of high school. I received 68 love letters. Shi Yao's words didn't stop there. She recounted all of the fun things that she remembered from the past. Toward the end, she couldn't help but tilt her head to look at Lin Jiej and ask, "Lin Jiej, what about you? Did you encounter a lot of fun things in middle school and high school?" "No, there must be. Tell me about it. I beg of you." Lin Jiej, all right, don't say anything. Let me think. Shi Yao obediently shut her mouth and stared at Lin Jiej with her eyes brimming with anticipation. Half a minute later, Lin Jiej spoke up. "I represented the academy in the violin competition in my first year, and I won the first prize. He's ranked first in the entire Beijing Olympiad as a sophomore. First place in the 4th grade Olympiad. Tried to do the senior high school entrance exam in junior high school, only 1 mark short of a perfect score in math." Chapter 905. I participated in a mathematics competition in my 3rd year and won a huge sum of money. I entered G University as the top scorer in the National College Entrance Examination, and I earned over 10 million RMB in my first year. Hearing Lin Jiej's nonchalant tone, Shi Yao, why don't you tell me the story between you and Be There? Be There? Lin Jiej was stunned for a moment before he realized that she was referring to Liang Xiao. Isn't that a thing of the past? Why is it being brought up now? Lin Jiej replied honestly, "There's no story between the two of us. You're lying. Don't think that I don't know that she's the only girl who took supplementary lessons from you in junior high. When she left the country, you even sent her off. Furthermore, she chased after you in junior high, and she even pulled up a banner to confess to you. Linjiej. He couldn't even remember these things clearly, so how could she be so clear about it? Linjiej, tell me honestly, was there any unspeakable secret between you and Be there in junior high? No. A second after Shi Yao said those words, Linjiej immediately replied, Liang Xiao did confess to me, but I rejected her. How did Be there confess to you? How else could she have confessed? It's just something along the lines of, I like you. Then how did you reject her? Linjiej couldn't remember it clearly. He pondered for a moment before replying, I think I told her that I like mathematics, but I don't like you. Shi Yao. So, Be there was a woman who lost to mathematics? And she was the woman who defeated mathematics? Who could have thought that after so many years, she would still be able to defeat her most feared subject, mathematics? As for what you said about tutoring her and sending her off at the airport, those are all misinterpreted by others. She's on good terms with my sister, but Linjiai is a good student except for her poor grades. She's always at the bottom of her class, and her mathematics scores have always been in the single digits from primary school to high school. Unable to put up with it, Grandpa had me tutor her, and it just so happened that Liang Xiao happened to be listening in on it. That's how those rumors started. As for her going overseas, it was because my sister wanted to send her off, and Grandpa happened to use our chauffeur, so I ended up being ordered around by Linjiai. That day, there were a lot of cars driving into the airport, and by the time I parked my car in the parking lot, Linjiai had already sent Liang Xiao off and called me to ask where I was. Hearing Lin Jiej's long explanation, Shi Yao's heart leaped in joy. However, she still couldn't help but grab Lin Jiej's arm out of curiosity and ask, could it be that you've never fallen for a woman before we got to know each other? Lin Jiej. No. Seeing that Shi Yao wasn't replying, Lin Jiej added, I really haven't. Lin Jiej spoke up once more. I'm really not lying to you. Putting aside my former classmates, I still can't tell who the girls in my class are even after we graduate. Shi Yao smiled in satisfaction. Then, she added, Lin Jiej, I didn't expect your survival instincts to be so off the charts. Lin Jiej didn't say a word. The two of them continued walking for a while before Lin Jiej turned to look at the smiling girl. Recalling the voice recorder in his pocket, he hesitated for a moment before asking, What about you? What? Chapter 906. All of a sudden, Shi Yao's footsteps came to a halt. He had no idea what he was afraid of, but even his breathing had become subdued. Even his heart was beating erratically, and he couldn't help but hold his breath for a moment. After an indeterminate period of time, perhaps only 10 seconds or so, but to Lin Jiej it felt like an eternity, he heard her voice. There's someone. Lin Jiej didn't dare to look at Shi Yao. The silence between the two of them was a complete mess. Roughly 3 to 4 seconds later, Shi Yao spoke up once more. Lin Jiej, I don't want to lie to you. I really did meet someone that I once wanted to fall in love with. He knew the answer, but when it came from her mouth, he still found it hard to digest it. As if something was stuck in Lin Jiej's throat, it took him a long time before he finally replied with an "oh." Shi Yao could tell that Lin Jiej was unhappy, so she leaned her head on his shoulder like a docile kitten and rubbed it lightly against him. Then, she continued, But that kind of love is different from what you're imagining. I don't know if you have a female celebrity that you like very much, but it's the kind that you can't help but daydream about being together with her one day. Take Sis Jiai, for example. She would always say that a certain male celebrity is very handsome, and every time she sees his photo, she would say that he's her husband. Jiang Yu would hug Li Yifeng's pillow and say that it's her favorite. And the person that I once wanted to fall in love with is exactly that kind of existence to me. I'm not sure what you guys think, but almost all girls have the same youthful dream of being together with their idol. However, most girls know that it's just a dream, and it won't come true. After all, take Jay Cho for example. Isn't Madame Cho his fan? In the end, she ended up becoming his wife. It's really rare to see such a thing happen. So, it turned out that the person that Soft Bun once wanted to fall in love with was a certain celebrity? Which celebrity? Could he possibly be more handsome than him? Lin Jiej couldn't help but ask jealously, "Which celebrity do you like?" From now on, the Lin family wouldn't be investing in any of that celebrity's advertisements anymore. He's not really a celebrity, but in my heart, he's much brighter than a celebrity. At the mention of her idol, Shi Yao's eyes lit up. He's my idol, as well as my Adonis. I'm sure you'll be shocked to death if I tell you about it. He's an esports player who plays games. Up till now, I still don't know what he looks like. I think I've mentioned him to you before. He's the Adonis that I spent 100 renminbi to support. He's from Legend, AE Squadron. He's also the person who's always suppressing you on the leaderboards. He's the one I once wanted to fall in love with, Lin Jiej, who hadn't dared to look at Shi Yao ever since he asked that question, slowly turned his head to look at her. Shi Yao didn't notice Lin Jiej's gaze. She was still immersed in her own thoughts as she continued. He's very strong. Ever since he debuted, he's won many championships. However, what I'm most impressed about him isn't how strong he is in the game, but the depth and purity of his character. He plays games out of passion, and in this world, there are very, very few people who are willing to do something out of passion. Chapter 907. Let me tell you, my Adonis's hands are really beautiful. They're so beautiful that they're just like the hands of the male leads in the manga. Their joints are clearly defined, and they're both aesthetic and erotic. Lin Jiej. Aesthetic and erotic? What kind of description is that? Oh, you must not know what it means. Let me tell you, this is a little secret of us girls. It's used to describe those men who look clean and abstinent, but the more they look like in bed. So, to say that my Adonis's hands are aesthetic and erotic, it means that his hands are really beautiful. Everyone is curious about what he looks like when he touches a girl's body, Lin Jiej. So, girls can be so perverted too. I've learned something new. Ha, Lin Jiej, do you know that I overheard some girls discussing what you look like when you take off your clothes, Lin Jiej? Sure enough, when girls get hooligans, there's nothing left for guys to do. Society. At this point, Shi Yao couldn't help but gloat. But it's a pity that they won't be able to see it for the rest of their lives. Hearing those words, Lin Jiej couldn't help but chuckle softly. Hearing that, Shi Yao turned around and saw an unconcealable look of joy on Lin Jiej's face. To be more precise, it was a look of delight and ecstasy. It was just like the look on her face when she dreamed of a mountain of snacks. She didn't say anything at all. All she did was say that the girls in the book wouldn't even be able to see him take off his clothes, so why was he so happy? Shi Yao tilted her head and pondered for a moment. She couldn't help but feel that Lin Jiej's ecstasy was a little weird, so she asked, "What did I say to make you so happy?" "It's nothing." Lin Jiej's tone was very calm, but the smile on his face grew even more unrestrained. Really? You're a dog if you lie to me." Lin Jiej replied. In his heart, he thought, "I'm a dog, her dog." Shi Yao hooked her arm around Lin Jiej's once more and began walking forward. After walking for a distance, Shi Yao suddenly recalled the stories she had shared with Lin Jiej about their time in middle school and high school, and she couldn't help but feel a little sad. Lin Jiej, say, if we had gotten to know each other in middle school or high school, wouldn't we have gotten together then? Before he fell in love with Shi Yao, he didn't want to have anything to do with her. After falling in love with Shi Yao, Lin Jiej couldn't help but fantasize about how he would have gotten to know her much earlier. He couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret in his heart. However, Shi Yao's melancholy only lasted for a few short seconds before she got over it. But it doesn't matter. We're at the tail end of our youth, and we've walked together. In a way, we've spent our youth with each other. As Shi Yao spoke, she couldn't help but feel that her intelligence was resonating with Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej, do you think I'm right? Something's wrong. Faced with Lin Jiej's denial, Shi Yao turned her head away in displeasure. I have accompanied you through your youth. Chapter 908. That's not what he meant. But Lin Jiej didn't say anything. Shi Yao took Lin Jiej's silence as a tacit agreement. After a moment of contemplation, She felt that it was a little embarrassing and pitiful for Lin Jiej to be 2 years older than her. So, she consoled him, "Don't worry. I might not be able to accompany you through your youth, but I can accompany you through your old age. I promise that when you fall sick and are bedridden, I'll serve you with all my heart. I'll never pull out your oxygen tube, Lin Jiej. Should he be touched by Soft Bun's consolation, or should he break down?" By the time Lin Jiej and Shi Yao returned home, it was already 3:30 a.m. After taking a shower, Shi Yao regretted having a heart-to-heart talk with Lin Jiej. From 4 a.m. until dawn, Lin Jiej had been tormenting her in all sorts of ways. And while he was tormenting her, he didn't stop talking. "Yao Yao, have you ever imagined how I would look like after I take off my clothes? Then, have you ever imagined how I would look like when I kiss you like this? Have you ever imagined how my hands would glide across your skin like this? Have you ever imagined how I would love you so fiercely? Have you ever imagined how we would look like this, and this, and this?" Lin Jiej woke up at 10:30 a.m., and as he recalled everything that had happened the previous night, his mind became so agitated that he couldn't sleep anymore. Eventually, he picked up his phone, ran to the family chat, and sent a message. "I've encountered something that makes me happy." Half a minute later, no one replied in the family chat. So, Lin Jiej contacted his father, mother, uncle, aunt, and Lin Jiai. His father, Lin Gubei, was the first to reply. "Eat, sleep, beat son. I'll ask your mother for her opinion first." His uncle, Xia Yang, followed closely behind. Shui Yang sent an emoji. His aunt, Lin Gunan, was probably busy, so she didn't reply. Half a minute later, "Eat, sleep, beat son. Your mother has given her approval, so what did you encounter that made you happy?" Finally, someone had responded to his words. Lin Jiej raised his finger, but just as he was about to type out his reply, Lin Jiai suddenly spoke up, "ATM machine, if you dare to mention Yao Yao's proposal to you again, I'll rush up to you and give you a good thrashing right now. Eat, sleep, beat son. Daughter, I support you." Aunt Lin Gunan finally spoke up. "Oh, so Jiej's happy event is Yao Yao proposing to Jiej. That's something to be happy about." Xia Yang's sharp eyes noticed that Lin Gunan's WeChat ID had changed from 20 kilograms, no change, to 24 kilograms, no change. "Honey, why did you change your name again?" 24 kilograms won't change your name. I've gained another 4 kilograms. Eat, sleep, beat son. Don't reduce it. You can't reduce it anymore. Seeing that the chat in the group had changed the topic, Lin Jiej hurriedly went back to the main topic at hand. "What I want to talk about isn't Yao Yao's proposal to me. I want to talk about something else that's worthy of my happiness. 24 kilos won't change your name. What's up?" Shui Yang sent a "I'm all ears" emoji. "Eat, sleep, beat son. I went to ask your mother again, and she told me to ask you what's up." Chapter 909. Less than 24 pounds slimmer. We don't want to guess anymore. Just get straight to the point. Shui Yang sent an emoji that said, "What the person above said is exactly what they wanted me to say. Eat, sleep, beat son. Your mom said that you should hurry up and fart." Lin Jiai, wise mother. Lin Jiej continued typing on his keyboard as he said what he wanted to say. "To be honest, I'm afraid that I might scare you guys. Less than 24 pounds slimmer. I've always been the one scaring people, not the other way around. So, feel free to say it." Shui Yang sent another emoji that said, "What the person above said is exactly what they wanted me to say. Eat, sleep, beat son. Your mom said that if you can't scare her, I'll beat you to death." Lin Jiai, "I'll do it." Immersed in his own emotions, Lin Jiej continued to progress slowly. "Speaking of which, I still find it hard to believe that such a beautiful thing could happen. Even now, I still feel like I'm dreaming. Less than 24 pounds slimmer. You sure talk a lot of nonsense." Shui Yang sent another emoji that said, "What the person above said is exactly what they wanted me to say. Eat, sleep, beat son. Your mom said that you don't feel like you're dreaming. You're just itching for a beating. Lin Jiai, don't stop me. I'm going to kill him right now." Lin Jiej, But I'm sorry to tell you that I can't tell you about this for the time being. Less than 24 pounds slimmer. What do you want us to do then? Shui Yang sent another emoji that said, what the person above said is exactly what they wanted me to say. Eat, sleep, beat son. Your mom said that she doesn't have a son like you anymore. Lin Jiai, if I say, I'm your grandpa, no one will mind, right? Less than 24 pounds slimmer. What do you think? Shui Yang sent another emoji that said, what the person above said is exactly what they wanted me to say. Eat, sleep, beat son. Jiai, your mom told you to watch your manners. Lin Jiai, I can't stay in this group anymore. Paying no heed to the frenzied crowd, Lin Jiej continued typing. That's because I have to share something that makes me happy with Yao Yao first. Only after Yao Yao learns of it will you know of it. 24 kilograms slimmer. Shui Yang continued to send an emoji that said, what the person above said is exactly what you wanted me to say. Eat, sleep, beat son. A married son is like spilled water. Lin Jiai sent a string of angry emojis. Lin Jiej, I'm just here to tell you guys that I've come across something really delightful. Lin Jiai invited Yao loves ice cream into the group. Lin Jiai, Yao loves ice cream, Yao Yao. Keep Lin Jiej in check. Lin Jiej leisurely picked up Shi Yao's phone and unlocked the screen with her finger. After which, he entered WeChat and sent a voice message to the family chat. Sorry, Yao Yao is sleeping. Zhang Wangue, who hadn't spoken since the beginning, left the group chat. Eat, sleep, beat son, left the group chat. Lin Jiai, left the group chat. Less than 24 pounds slimmer, left the group chat. Shui Yang left the group chat. Chapter 9-10. But in the midst of his laughter, Lin Jiej suddenly turned to look at Shi Yao, who was still in a deep sleep. There was something that he had to make arrangements for. She would surely be overjoyed when he was done and told her about it. With this thought in mind, he glanced at the calendar. There were still around 20 days until Christmas, so he could give her an unforgettable Christmas present. Lin Enterprise, Lin Jiai, who was suffering from a severe headache due to her hangover, recalled Lin Jiej's despicable attitude in the group chat, and she couldn't help but fling her phone onto her desk in anger. Coincidentally, Xia Shangzhou, who had just entered the office, saw this sight and subconsciously turned around to back away. The sharp-eyed Lin Jiai called out to Xia Shangzhou, hold it right there. As if a puppet under her control, Xia Shangzhou immediately stopped in his tracks. Come here. Hearing Lin Jiai's command, Xia Shangzhou took in a deep breath with his back facing Lin Jiai. He slowly turned around and walked over to his desk. He placed the documents in his hands on the table and leaped back a meter. Lin Jiai shot Xia Shangzhou a perplexed glance. For some reason, she felt that the GPS was acting weirdly today. After she was done signing the documents, she gestured for Xia Shangzhou to take them away. Instead, she maintained the same distance from him and reached out to take the documents. Why is the GPS avoiding me so far away? Could it be that something happened last night? Lin Jiai tried her best to recall, but the only thing she could remember was that she was so dizzy at golden resplendence that she couldn't remember anything else. So, she raised her eyebrows at Xia Shangzhou and asked, did I beat you up yesterday? Xia Shangzhou hurriedly shook his head, and no. If I didn't beat him up, why does he look like he's trying to avoid me? With this thought in mind, Lin Jiai gestured for Xia Shangzhou to come closer. Xia Shangzhou stood on the spot, not moving an inch. Pa. Lin Jiai slammed her palm onto the table, and before she could even say a word, Xia Shangzhou had already leaped up to her and shouted, Boss Lin. Faced with Xia Shangzhou's fawning tone, Lin Jiai didn't say a word. Instead, she tugged on his tie and dragged him over to her side. She tilted her head upward and began examining him closely. As she drew closer, he could clearly smell the light fragrance on her body. His mind, which had finally calmed down, once again replayed the scene of her kissing his cheek in the early morning. His heart raced for no reason. The moment she opened her mouth, he abruptly raised his hand, slapped her hand away, and took 2 steps back. Without saying a word, he fled the office. As the door slammed shut with a dong, Lin Jiai frowned. She propped her chin in her hand as she stared in the direction where Xia Shangzhou had left, deep in thought. The navigator was really a little strange. The strangest thing was that he actually became bold and dared to resist her. This time around, Shiryao didn't stay at Lin Jie's place for 3 whole days like the previous time. That afternoon, after she woke up, Lin Jie accompanied her for lunch and told her that he would be going on a business trip for a longer period of time. Furthermore, he would be quite busy, so he wouldn't be able to contact her every day. Since Lin Jie was busy with work, Shiryao didn't stop him. Thus, after lunch, those who were going on a business trip or returning to school returned. This parting went on for more than 20 days. As the final examinations were approaching, Shiryao immersed herself in her textbooks every single day, so she didn't think that the days were too difficult. But on the 23rd of December, she received a call from an unknown number. P.S. This baby has a 3-line love letter for everyone. I love all of you. Chapter 9:11. This farewell lasted for more than 20 days. As the finals were approaching, Shiryao immersed herself in her textbooks every single day, so she didn't think that the days were too difficult. But on the 23rd of December, she received a call from an unknown number. Looking at the number, Shiryao's first thought was that it was a scam or sales call, so she instinctively rejected the call. However, 5 seconds after she hung up, her phone screen lit up again. Are scammers and salesmen also diligent these days? Shiryao stared at the flickering screen for a moment, and seeing that the call didn't seem to have any intention of letting it go, she tapped on the button to accept the call. As she wasn't sure who the other party was, Shiryao replied with a weak hello, but she didn't introduce herself. The other end of the call was silent for around 2 to 3 seconds before a gentle female voice sounded. Excuse me, are you Miss Shiryao? Yes. You are? Hello, Miss Shiryao. I'm a staff member of AE Team. AE Team? Isn't that my Adonis's team? Shiryao immediately tried to suck up to the other party. Hello? May I know why you are calling me? Perhaps due to the huge difference in Shiryao's tone, the woman on the other end of the call couldn't help but chuckle. Then, she said, It's like this, Miss Shiryao. You were at the SDL finals, and you even interacted with Legend. Do you still remember it? Of course I remember it. Her Adonis, who rarely spoke in public, still spoke to her that day, even though it was just a single word, good. Back then, you told Legend to work hard for the PGI World League, and that you hoped that he could become the first world champion of PUBG. The PGI World League Finals happened to be held on Christmas night, and the venue was the Bird's Nest. I wonder if you have the time to watch Legend's match live? She had been keeping an eye on the tickets for the finals for many days now, but it was a pity that she couldn't even get one of the most ordinary tickets, let alone the VIP ones. With such thoughts in mind, Shiryao replied regretfully, Of course I want to go, but I don't have a ticket, so I might have to support Legend in front of my phone. Oh, you don't have to worry about the ticket. I was asked by Legend to call you to tell you that Legend has prepared a ticket for you. So, do you have a look and see if it's convenient for you? Convenient. Even more convenient than instant noodles. Hearing Shiryao's reply, the female employee on the other end of the call burst into laughter once more. All right then, leave me your address, and I'll send the tickets over to you. Shiryao replied with a thank you before passing the address of the school to the female employee. She waited for the other party to verify the information before hanging up the call. Not too long later, Shiryao received a notification on her phone that she had received a package. Shiryao happily took a screenshot and sent it to Lin Jie's WeChat. Lin Jie, I feel like I'm going to make you a cuckold. What should I do? For the past 20 days, he had been really busy. His replies to her messages were always late. Sometimes, he would only reply to her once every few days. So, faced with the silence from the other end of the phone, Shiryao continued to type and send her message. My Adonis actually still remembers me and even prepared a ticket for the finals for me. Say, what should I do if he were to treat me to a meal after the finals? What if I can't control myself and agree to him? Chapter 9:12. But don't worry, Lin Jie. I'll try my best not to cheat on you so easily. As she typed, Shiryao hugged her phone tightly and giggled foolishly. As it was mailed from the same city, Shiryao received the ticket for the PGI finals the next morning. It was Christmas Eve, and Lin Jiej was so busy that he didn't even have time to send Shiyao a message. The PGI finals was scheduled to start at 6 in the evening. As it was Christmas Day, the traffic in Beijing was already extremely congested before 4 in the afternoon. The journey from Ji University to the bird's nest took roughly 10 minutes, but Shiyao took nearly an hour. Just like the previous time in Shenzhen, the queue to enter the stadium was extremely long, stretching all the way to the side of the road. The ticket that AE team had mailed to her this time was also for the VIP seats. She easily entered the stadium through the almost empty VIP passage. Even though there were still many people who hadn't entered yet, the bird's nest was already packed with people. It took Shiyao quite some time before she finally found her seat. She was still seated in the first row, the kind where she could see the contestants on the stage with just a lift of her head. There were still around 20 minutes before the start of the match. Shiyao sat in her seat, chatting with Lung Wan, He Tian, and Zhang Yu in the dormitory group chat. Suddenly, she heard a female student shouting behind her. Legend posted on Weibo. He said that today will be his final match. There were quite a few Legend fans in the stadium. Even though they didn't know each other, some of them still chimed in. Are you for real? God L is going to retire? Previously, on the forum, I saw someone say that God L was going to retire after the SDL competition during the summer break. But for some reason, he decided to compete in the PGI World League. But at that time, there was no official announcement. Maybe it was just a rumor. But now, God L has said it himself. Hearing the discussions around her, Shiyao was stunned for a moment before she tapped into Weibo. Entering Legend's homepage, Shiyao immediately saw the post that he had posted about 15 minutes ago. Thank you, AE, my teammates, and all of you. The PGI World League will be my final battlefield. I want to say that I'm leaving. I want to say that I'm coming. In just a short 10 minutes, the number of comments under the post had already exceeded 10,000. Shiyao tapped into it and took a look at the trending comments. Some were reluctant, some were sad, and some were happy. In fact, she had come to watch Legend's match today with the mentality of saying goodbye to the infatuation she had when she was young. But now that he was really going to retire, she couldn't help but feel a little sad. For a moment, her originally excited and passionate heart became a little depressed and sorrowful. Shiyao stared at Legend's Weibo for a while. She wanted to say a few words, but there were too many things she wanted to say in her heart. In the end, she could only reply with a few words. Goodbye, my dreams. Weibo Yao, Titsei, Tsei, T to say, is, Teet, T, 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 D, Teet, Yao, Teet, He, Yi Legend, King Legend, Teed, Teal Deep Legend, T, Yao only, T from, T's only, T Yout, Yao. Chapter 9:13. At 6 o'clock, the match began punctually. Perhaps it was because it was Legend's final match. When AE team walked onto the stage, many people were shouting Legend in a frenzy. This was the last time they would be cheering for their beloved idol, and it was also the last time they would be cheering for their beloved idol live. In that instant, the outcome of the match didn't seem that important anymore. What was more important was to fully immerse oneself in the match. Due to the fact that it was an international tournament, the venue this time around was far grander than the previous two tournaments that Shiyao had seen. She looked at the exquisitely lit stage and Legend, who was standing not too far away from her, and memories of the past suddenly flashed across her mind. If not for Legend, she wouldn't have come into contact with PlayerUnknown's battleground, and she wouldn't have met Mr. Numbers, Juice, and Expert. She wouldn't have learned of the many things that Lin Jiej had done for her through the game. Just half a year ago, during the match in Shenzhen, when she looked at Legend, she couldn't help but think of Lin Jiej several times. Back then, she still thought that she was blatantly defaming her Adonis. Today, looking at Legend at the tournament venue, she couldn't help but recall the past and her feelings back then. She found it a little hilarious, but at the same time, she also felt a little touched. While the bird's nest was bustling with activity, over at G University, many people had gone on dates, and those who weren't on dates had gone out to celebrate the holidays with their friends. The entire campus felt a little empty. Shiyao had gone to watch the tournament, He Tian and Zhang Yu had gone to watch a movie that was going to be released on Christmas Day, so Leng Wan was the only one left in the dormitory. Regardless of whether there was someone around or not, Leng Wan was always the one who could calm down the most. At this moment, she was holding a book in her hands, and just like how she usually did when everyone was shouting and yelling in the dormitory, she was focused on her book. The dormitory was very quiet, so quiet that she could hear people running and laughing along the corridors from time to time. She flipped through page after page of her book, and the more she read, the slower her speed became. Eventually, she would even glance at the time on her phone from time to time. 9 o'clock, 9:20, 9:40, 10 o'clock. Christmas would be over in 2 hours. Outside the window, there was no sign of snow at all, except for the bone-chilling winter wind. In fact, not snowing was what she wanted, wasn't it? There was very little snow in winter in Beijing, not to mention on Christmas Day. It was a scene that only happened once in a blue moon. When she said those words to Liu Binlai, she was thinking that he wouldn't waste his time and life on her anymore, wasn't she? Reining in her drifting thoughts, Leng Wan continued reading her book. When she saw the words Raging Inferno, her thoughts drifted away once more. Not too long ago, in the suburbs, the hot spring resort, the fire, that young man, and the voice that kept calling her name. It was as clear as day, as if it had just happened. There had been people who confessed to her, but he seemed to be the only one, right? Unbeknownst to Leng Wan herself, her fingertips had already tightened around the book in her hands. Chapter 9:14. Hearing that voice, Leng Wan subconsciously turned around and saw that it was really snowing heavily outside the window. How could this be? The weather forecast clearly said that it would be a sunny day. Leng Wan frowned. After confirming that she wasn't seeing things, she stood up and ran to the window. Opening the window, she was greeted by the frigid weather. Leng Wan, who was only wearing a thin pajamas, shuddered involuntarily. She reached out to catch a few flakes of snow. The snowflakes that landed on her fingertips didn't feel cold, nor did they melt upon contact with her body temperature. When Leng Wan brought the snowflakes closer to her eyes, she was able to discern that they weren't snowflakes at all. They were foam that resembled snowflakes. It's not snow. It's fake snow. Who did this? It looks pretty realistic, as if it's really snowing. It's so beautiful. Ha, look, it's not snowing at the field. It's only snowing at our dormitory building. As more and more people opened their windows to watch the show, Leng Wan seemed to have thought of something, and she looked around the building. As the fake snow was created using a foam machine, it didn't take long for the ground to be covered in white. Other than a few passers-by who kept raising their heads to take photos with a few female students, Leng Wan immediately saw Liu Binlai standing at the bottom of the dormitory building. He was dressed in a red down jacket, and it looked particularly eye-catching amidst the white snow. He was wearing a Christmas hat that covered his bald head, and with his hands in his pockets, he was staring at her dormitory building. Due to the distance, they couldn't see each other's expressions clearly, but they knew that they were looking at each other. After some time, Leng Wan saw Liu Binlai take out his phone, and her phone started ringing behind her. She knew that he was the one who called. She stood by the window and stared at him for a while before walking to her bed and picking up her phone. She swiped the screen and answered the call. She opened her mouth to speak, only to realize that her usual composure and self-control had been shattered. In the end, she decided to shut her mouth. Leng Wan. Liu Binlai's voice sounded from the other end of the call. Leng Wan didn't say a word. Instead, she raised her phone and walked back to the window. When he saw her from downstairs, he continued, "This snow is for you. Let's name her Leng Wan. Do you like it?" Leng Wan remained silent, but her fingers, which were holding onto her phone, were trembling slightly. "I know that you grew up in the South, so you've never seen snow before, but it's fine. Let's see something similar for now. When it really snows in Beijing one day, I'll treat you to the Forbidden City." Perhaps it was due to the cold. Liu Binlai's teeth were chattering as he spoke. "If you don't like it, I'll buy a ticket for you in advance, and you can find someone you like to accompany you. I've seen the Forbidden City once, and it's really beautiful, especially when the sun shines down on the white world." It feels like a paradise on earth. It's much more beautiful than those scenes you see in television dramas. Chapter 9:15. Why you? Get over here right now. Following the furious roar of the Educational Administration Department, Lu Binlai's yes, yes, yes voice sounded from the other side of the phone. Following which, Lu Binlai hurriedly spoke into the phone. Lung Wan, Merry Christmas. Before Lung Wan could say anything, Lu Binlai had already hung up the phone. Standing by the window, Lung Wan watched as Lu Binlai scuttled over to the Educational Administration Department with his head drooped low as he endured his reprimand. Amidst the harsh reprimand from the Educational Administration Department, Lung Wan raised her head to look at the snow falling from the sky. Not too long later, the snow finally stopped, and the Educational Administration Department stormed out angrily. Lu Binlai picked up a broom and began sweeping his masterpiece. Lung Wan stared at the busy male student downstairs for a while before closing the windows and drawing the curtains. She then took out a set of clothes from the wardrobe and changed into them. After which, she went to the washroom to grab a broom before heading down. She had barely left the female dormitory, but before she could even sweep the floor, Lu Binlai's sharp eyes had already spotted her. Dragging the broom with him, he ran up to her and said, "I don't need your help. It's so cold here. You should hurry back to the dormitory. I can handle this alone." Seeing that Lung Wan wasn't moving at all, Lu Binlai spoke up once more. "I'm serious. I really can handle this alone. Let me tell you, I've already thought of the consequences before I did this, so I prepared a broom beforehand. Look, isn't this broom of mine especially big? I bought it from Taobao. Your broom is way too small, so it'll really take forever to clean this place. Also, you don't need to worry about me. I won't freeze. I've even put on the long johns that I've treasured for so many years just for tonight." Lu Binlai? Before Lu Binlai could finish his words, Lung Wan suddenly spoke up. Her voice was as calm as ever. "You win." Lu Binlai stared at Lung Wan silently. Lung Wan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and avoided his gaze. "That day at Golden Resplendence, I said that I'll consider you if it snows on Christmas Day. You won." Lu Binlai's lips curled into a smile, and a gust of wind blew his Christmas hat to the ground. His hairless head fell into Lung Wan's eyes. It was a comical sight, but for some reason, Lung Wan couldn't help but feel envious. She turned her head away and heard him say, "Thank you for going easy on me, Lung Wan." Without saying a word, Lung Wan turned around and entered the dormitory with a broom in hand. As Lu Binlai watched her leave, his eyebrows shot up as he howled, "Don't worry, one day, I'll make sure that your surname is Lu." Mrs. Lu. Lung Wan paused for a moment, but she didn't turn around. At 10:45, the match ended. AE team won the PGI World League. The cheers in the Bird's Nest Stadium were deafening. Seated in her seat, Shuyao stared at the screen in the hall, and she suddenly recalled the words she had said to Legend back in Shenzhen. "Legend, it's none of your business. Whether you succeed now or fall into dire straits in the future, you'll always be the light that shines in my heart. I'm not your teammate, so I can't risk my life for you, but I can cheer for you. As long as it's your dream, it's my dream too. I want to be your little fangirl forever. Finally, I wish you all the best for the PGI World League. I hope that you can become the first world champion of PlayerUnknown's Battleground." Back then, just when everyone thought that Legend wouldn't say a word, he did, even though it was just a single word, "All right." But now, everything had come to fruition. Her blessings and his promise had come true. From now on, Legend would just be a legend, and her youthful dreams would just be a dream. Many of Legend's fans were shedding tears as this was the final match. Even Yao's eyes reddened. After leaving the Bird's Nest Stadium, Yao was unable to calm her raging emotions. The first thing that came to her mind was to look for Lin Jiej, but before she could call him, the phone in her bag suddenly rang. Chapter 9:16. Yao had no idea who the caller was, so she calmed her emotions down before taking out her phone. The caller was Lin Jiej, the person she was looking for. Yao quickly picked up the call, and before Lin Jiej could speak, she spoke up first. "Lin Jiej, I'm fine." Before Yao could finish her words, Lin Jie seemed to know what she was going to say, and he interrupted her. Yao, where are you? Me? Yao glanced at the crowd that had mostly dispersed before replying. I just left the tournament venue. Did you come out from the North Gate? Look straight ahead. The Four Seasons Hotel is on the other side of the road. Do you see it? Following Lin Jie's instructions, Yao raised her head and looked ahead. Through the traffic on the street, she saw the logo of the hotel with a single glance. She nodded before replying, I see it. What's wrong? Come to the hotel, room 2101. Lin Jie called her to the hotel. 3 seconds later, Yao came to a realization and asked, Lin Jie, you're back in Beijing? When did you come back? Also, why didn't you call me when you were back? Even if you didn't call me, you could have just gone home. Why are you staying in a hotel? Yao asked a few questions, but before Lin Jie could reply, she realized that she had gotten a little too agitated. So she quickly added, wait for me, we'll talk about it later. It had been more than 20 days since they last met, and Yao really missed Lin Jie. Thus, the joy of their reunion temporarily washed away the heavy feelings that legend had brought to her. After hanging up the call, Yao didn't hesitate any longer and headed straight for the Four Seasons Hotel. Perhaps it was due to the proximity of the Four Seasons Hotel to the tournament venue. Many professional teams chose to stay in this hotel. When Yao arrived at the entrance, she noticed that there were quite a number of people gathered outside. Many of them were holding placards that were filled with words of encouragement for their favorite teams. Yao didn't have a room card, so she couldn't head upstairs. Thus, when she reported her room to the front desk, the receptionist didn't bother asking any questions. Nor did she inform Lin Jie, who was upstairs. It was as if they had already made an appointment beforehand, and the receptionist immediately made a new room card for her. She stepped into the elevator, and along the way up, the doors opened one after another, and a few young men walked in. Yao recognized some of them as participants of the tournament. One of them was even from AE Squadron, and he was even wearing the uniform of AE Squadron. Not too long ago, he had worked together with Lin Jie to eliminate a team in Jorgapal. As the elevator rose higher and higher, the number of people in it gradually decreased. In the end, only the professional player from AE team and Yao were left. When they reached the 21st floor, the elevator doors opened. As Yao walked out, the member of AE team followed closely behind her. The two of them couldn't help but look at each other, then walked along the corridor with suspicion in their hearts. The member of AE team stopped at the entrance of room 2103. When he swiped his room card to enter the room, he shot a glance at Yao. Seeing that she had stopped at the entrance of room 2101, not only did she not enter the room, she even craned her neck to look at Yao curiously. Yao had a room card in her hand, so without knocking on the door, she swiped it and entered the room. Bye-bye. After saying those words, Yao took 2 steps back, looking as if she was about to turn around and leave. Legend, who had been silent ever since Yao entered the room, suddenly spoke up. Wait a moment. The voice was very familiar, so familiar that Yao felt as if it was the person who had been sleeping beside her. Yao subconsciously halted her movements and stared at Legend. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't believe that he was Lin Jie. Perhaps it was because she hadn't seen Lin Jie for a very long time that she was hallucinating earlier. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.